Patrick Trinkler from Cysec. I present my panelists in the order of where they're sitting here rather than the slide. So Bruno Bouygues from GIS and Charles Praud from Sopra Stereo. So we'll be speaking about case studies in smart industry. So we're going to concrete things. I would first introduce my invitees, and then I will ask you 2 questions. We'll keep on track for the time. We'll try to spend like 15 minutes per each person. And of course, for questions, don't hesitate to ask them at the end of their talk. So, Patrick, you have mixed 2 of your passions. You have mixed actually your IT skills and anything related to security, and created a company called Cysec. The company is based in Switzerland, and you work worldwide with different companies in industry, protecting them from data theft, any non-authorized access to their data, and also any manipulation, of course, related to their information. So my first question is about what you do at Cysec, more precisely than I did introduce. So talk about Cysec and what you do, briefly, please. Yes.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Yes, Cysec is based in Lausanne, in Switzerland. We have an entity here in France. We have around 40 persons, 2 persons here in France, and 2 persons in Italy. We will have an entity in Italy too. And the idea or the vision of Cysec is that we will have a more and more distributed architecture with some component in the edge, in the cloud, or on-prem, and in this kind of digital distributed architecture, you cannot have anymore the access to the infrastructure. It's not easy to manage the infrastructure, and you will have a more and more sub-provider, subcontractor that will manage your infrastructure. And this idea is that, and the vision of Cysec, we need to create isolation between the infrastructure and the data and the business logic in this kind of a distributed architecture in order to have back the sovereignty of the data and to use it to develop some business. And our first vertical is the critical infrastructure. And we see that a lot of opportunity and traction in this space sector connected to the telecom vertical and the oil and gas vertical. Idea is that we will develop right now a new infrastructure around Europe and the world in order to be connected and to have this kind of distribution. And this is our largest development. The business side of this market is 1.1 trillion in 2030. And now we have, the market is around 400 billion. And we will scale in this kind of infrastructure, and we need to integrate the cybersecurity and the confidentiality and integrity of data.
Thank you. So the second question is that, you're evolving in a very fast-pacing environment, which is industry, and also the data and its protection. So would you please share your experience of Cysec from its creation up to now, how you started probably small and now growing because the demand is growing and because you have this ambition to grow. How do you explain and share this experience, specifically from a European point of view, facing with international actors, specifically Americans, and how do you see the future based on your path up to now?
Yeah, thank you. Cysec is not my first experience in startup. It was part of a spin-off at University of Geneva for the quantum technologies. And in 2040, I developed an entity in China in order to integrate the quantum technology in China. And it was very hard. It's the far west in China. That's the idea, the context we have right now. We have some geopolitical, some geoeconomic context. And Cysec have a vision and some value, and we want to operate in this kind of context. Now, with this war, we have this crisis we have in Ukraine, we have a lot of opportunity to develop the infrastructure around Europe and more in the NATO area geography. And we will play inside of that. But the idea is that it's an opportunity for Europe to have this leadership, because the age and the real distribution, they are no so very developed in US. It's more in Europe. It's completely different. In US, it's more the cloud, and in US, it's more the cloud. In Europe, it's more the age. And the idea to have this kind of project like the Iris Square, this new constellation from Thierry Breton around like a competitor of SpaceX. And idea is to have this kind of connection and to add some innovation part in order to have this kind of performance as we need to have this security as we need to have, to back the sovereignty, and to play around that. And that's the opportunity of Cysec. And we need to work around this European area. From Cysec and from Switzerland, it's not so easy to work right now, the challenge we have. We have some specific political decision that we are now more access to the European market, and that's where we will move. Because we want to be part of this European.
So why specifically is it made difficult? Is it the political decision, environment of the market?
In Switzerland there are some political decision that we are not anymore part of the Europe. And when you want to do some innovation, yes, you can be liberal like the Switzerland guys, but sometimes you need to do some kind of investment. And you need to do some kind of investment, like the PNRR project they are in Italy is 20 billion from Draghi in order to develop the infrastructure, or the France 2030 in order to develop the infrastructure. If you do some space or quantum, for a startup to be real innovative, to develop a solution, you need to invest a lot. And you can have investment from investor, but you need to have some program like Verizon Europe, or like Eurostar, like the ESA project, and that is not anymore accessible from the Switzerland. And that's the idea for us, is that to combine this kind of investment from the European investment, private investment, collaboration with university in order to develop this technology and to be one of player for our value and our vision of this new cloudification of the Europe.
So your market is international, your challenges are very local, but your access to go beyond these challenges can be through Europe as a chance, right?
No. Our 99% of our revenue is outside of Switzerland, is in Europe. 80% are in Europe, and 100% are in NATO. I think now they are completely clear that if you do cybersecurity, you need to in this kind of block and not in other block. And we want to play in this kind of block, the NATO one, but with the vision to accelerate the capacity in Europe with our solution.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So I'll move my rest of the talk to Charles. Charles Praud, you are, thank you. You've started with creation of a company that you founded at a period where startups were not still fashionable. So it was harder. So you started from investments that was not from the same structures that we know today. You made business with this company called acanthes.
Yeah.
Around the world, you could sell your product to over 30 operators. Some of your products are still working or running.
Yeah, it is.
They are. And you managed to sell your company to a bigger one called Sopra. You're now working inside Sopra as soon as you sold your company. And you've been holding different positions inside this company in the division called Telecom, Media and Entertainment Division. And now, currently, you're in charge of this division for digital innovation, international and relationship with different partners. You're also president of INT Numérique Foundation that supports the startup for their pre-seed phase. So, I'm moving from a cybersecurity and very highly technological solutions towards a person who is in the middle of the two worlds. So you started your own company, you've sold it. So you've lived in the two worlds, I would say startups and now corporate. So how would you explain the link between the startups and the corporates? Just share your experience with us and specifically how a corporate can help a startup go further than its initial idea.
Okay, so very humbly, I can share my experience. So now I am on the other side. Now my duty is to onboard startups in the advantage of my customers, of my clients. In a nutshell, the thing is, my best advice would be well understand what is at stake on the other side. And I would sum up it. I think there is a 3 gaps in between startups and large companies that you have to tackle and to manage and to understand how it is on the other side. And the first one, the first gap is about the culture. So by nature, a startup is made up of early adopters or innovators by essence. And on the other side, for the largest companies and mine, the majority of the manager and the decision maker are pragmatic, sometimes conservative. And you need to understand that. And so one thing which is really difficult on the startup side, this is on how to prioritize your leads. You try to have a lot of leads, but how to select the one for which the decision could be as fast as possible. And that's really not easy because, of course, it is not written on your face. If you are a conservative or a pragmatic person, because when you talk to people, they are all in favor of innovation and change. The reality is a bit different, and I will give you a trick. This is a Bismarck one. So Bismarck was used to say, when someone agrees with you on theory, he's saying you no. So that's things, and after also. So here this is regarding the culture. In terms of culture also, in a startup, the decision maker is the boss. This is the CEO. That's very simple. In large companies, sometimes it is not. This is, I would say, intermediary manager, but are running the business. They have a P&L. They have to take decision. They have to find the best trade-off for short decision and midterm or long-term decision. And a lot of times, it is these people that you have to convince. So selecting the right decision maker is also a challenge.
And most of the time, there are many in corporations.
Yes, of course, of course. So that's the first G. The second G is about the scale. The size gap between. And here this is terrible because for a normal company, for a large enterprise, 3 years, this is the medium time, the medium duration of any project, 3 years. For a startup, this is 20 years. So this is an eternity. So you can be jeopardized, completely jeopardized by a large company just because they have time. So it's really complex, and sometimes it's easier to progress with a medium-sized company, or sometimes companies that are running elsewhere regarding your geography. My first customer was Opus in Australia. And I signed the contract remotely for 120,000 of US dollars. And I'm not sure it would have been it was possible in France. So this is the second G. The third G is strange. This is regarding the acquisition purpose. Because when you meet a large company, the startup, of course, you somewhere this is in your business plan to sell, and would say on the two sides, they present you the best of you. It's like a wedding.
Habillé la mariée.
Exactly, a wedding protocol. So you are present yourself in the best way. And what doesn't know a lot of times a startup is the large company buy you not exactly for what your project. They have identified in your company an asset which is really important. That could be your product. That could be your skills. That could be your clients. And when you acquire, you discover that you have to change your project. And that could be terrible. So on my side, I had 2 years earnout. So I have 2 years to adapt to the project of Sopra regarding what they were buying to me. And I have a lot of examples in that way. That can be the segment of your customer. I had a customer in the US, in Asia. They were not interesting because the footprint of Sopra is Western Europe. Just an example. That could be competencies because you specialize in very specific know-how, and in that case your product is good enough, but it is not why they are. And I have a lot of examples, not my company, but yeah, probably this is almost all the startups, and you have to integrate in a big environment, change your culture, and so on.
So the way the company which is sold is valued is not really at the end valued for the things that you worked on to make it come true.
When you run a startup, sometimes a small customer, I bought my software to Cellcom in Malaysia. For me, it was a gem. It was a gem and a reference after to reproduce that business in Asia, in China, and so on. But from France for European market, you look at just the figures, the turnover, and the value was not in the turnover, but in the reference.
Okay, so
yeah,
I move to a second question related to your second cap, which is the president of INT Numérique Foundation.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of startups. Also inside your current position in Surprise Dairy, you work also with startups. So the question is, how do you see the evolution of the Europe when it comes to its startups, aiming to become an important actor in their sector? So how can Europe would support them, or how the environment of Europe can be a fertile place to grow?
There are a big difference between pure digital startup and Industry 4.0 startups. If you take the pure digital startup, who knows that Deep Early German from Köln? Almost nobody, because it works, it's available, that's easy. When you cross the street and go to the industrial world, you are very close to the physical world. you need to install your IoT on the shop floor, to support the blue collars that are running the factory and so on. And here the geography is really important. So that's not easy at all, thanks to that. So in addition to that, so of course means that you need to move and to travel. In addition to that, a lot of large companies than mine, we are still working a lot locally. It's a fact. My Spanish colleagues are making a strong relationship with Spanish startups, the same in Germany, the same in Norway, the same in UK, the same in France. And it's not so easy to, would say, today this is just a fact that UE is not yet a global territory. It is really fragmented, and this is the way a lot of time we run the business, especially when you have a physical constraint. And on the other side, if you look at, so I read a lot of BP, of business plan of startup, and that's very funny because all the time in the roadmap, they plan to develop their business locally. And this is after that they decide to to move forward, and a lot of times that's very shy. In addition, so it's really a problem. Also, this is the way the business plan is built, and I have not all the solution to that. I think that the key actors for me regarding that problem are either the very large groups, because they repeat the business from one factory to another one, and if the first factory is in Toulouse, the second one could be in München, if I stay in the theme of France and Germany. And you repeat, and also the system integrator like Sopra, but a lot of others that can repeat solutions. So that's why we organize in verticals. And when we have developed a twin for the telecom industry, we are trying to promote it in all the geography on which we operate. I think that this is the two category of factors that could foster and accelerate the startup success or the innovation deployment in UE.
Thank you very much.
That's all.
So now we move forward to another use case with Bruno Bouygues. Bruno, you are president of GIS, a family-owned company, purely industrial, plus services that accompanies its products. The products are in welding and charging equipments, and you make them from design to manufacturing. The main place of the company is placed in France, and also you're present in 6 different countries. You have almost 1,000 employees around the world, and you are having with you a great playground for Industry 4.0. So at the end of the day, actually, you are the one who sees the smart industry usages in your site, fabrication site. So talk about a little bit GIS, please, for us, so we can understand what you propose as products and services, and then we'll move to a second question.
Thank you very much. So GIS is a family company. I presented a couple of slides to explain what we do. So the company was created in '64, but we purchased it with my father in 1998. Historically, the company was manufacturing transformers, and we decided to change the product to move slowly to inverter technology and then battery chargers, then welding technology. What has been quite interesting in the journey is that when we were using transformer, the product were the size of a motorbike. When you start to use electronics and you increase frequency, you actually reduce the weight and the size, and today the product is about the size of, let's say, a small computer. So it can travel around the world at incredible speed, and because the value per product is high, the transport cost is actually close to zero. For everybody to understand, when I ship a container from France to Italy, it's 2% of the value. When I ship a container from China to Italy, it's about 4% of the value of the container. So there's no more borders. And so this is why manufacturer of a high-tech product, we are in full front against China, because it's the same cost pretty much of transport. So if you have a lower cost base, then you have a massive advantage. Nevertheless, we managed to be successful until now by vertically integrating all of the transformation process to manufacture a product. In Europe, and especially in France, the normal business model is to specialize in one of the part of the value chain of manufacturing. Whereas for us, we decided to actually go as back as possible in the transformation. So we do the electronics, the mechanics, the plastics, the wiring, the electrotechnique, the mechatronics. So we try to do everything under one roof, so we have limited transport, limited margin, supplier margin. But the constraint is keeping and increasing the knowledge in all departments of the company. In terms of volume, what we do today, we manufacture 2,000 to 3,000 machines per day that we ship to 130 countries. We have a park of about 10 million machines. This is the largest industrial park in Europe. And the challenge that we're facing right now is that we have a double trend. We have a trend where a lot of clients ask us to connect their machine, but we're not talking about hundreds of machines or thousands, we're talking about millions of machines. So it's not only connecting, it's also creating what we call an MVNO. So we have to create a network operator company to manage this volume. And the second time, we have a lot of clients that says, oh, we don't want any connection. We're scared of security. How do you prove that you're able, your machine connected to our robots, to our PLC, to our cobots, to whatever IT environment, industrial IT environment, how do you prove that your cybersecurity is actually working properly? Please do note that welding, in particularly, is the fastest machine in manufacturing. We treat data. We do about 150 operations every 30 nanoseconds, which means we have billions of data per second. So this is for most factories very scary. And so nowadays, even though we are pushing on the development of connectivity, actually most of our industrial clients ask us to stop it. So it's a given. I think it will, one standard will arrive. I think this will be better. For everybody in the room to understand, when we talk about a mobile phone, there is maybe 10 standards in the world, everything is clear. When you talk about manufacturing, you're talking about thousands of standards. And nobody wants to change this, by the way, because this is barrier to entry to everybody. So this is going to take time. If you go next slide, we'll go very fast. Today we do about 125 million. The objective this year is to do 150. So we have grown organically. We've not been able to buy people. So for the moment, only organic growth. Not yet. What has happened, as you can see on this slide, is pretty much moving from transformer to robotics, automation systems. There are not so many people actually working in the systems. You'd be surprised. In the past, we used to do product. Now we start to do project. I'll give you an example. If you take about the complex factory in the automotive, Bosch, Siemens, they used to do all project. Now they say, less than 100 million? No, too risky for me. So now as projects become more risky, the big players are positioning themselves on the higher end, on the higher volume. So there is a huge market arriving for very small projects, very high risk. But most of the family company can manage and mitigate those risks. So this is where we are going, and the trends that we will see in GIS is by positioning themselves on this product project connectivity. I think GIS will be able to double relatively fast. One last slide, just for everybody to see. So I tried to write on the board all of the digital projects that we have, and I try to slice them between, and sorry, I don't have my glasses, so product and users, design, manufacturing, customer and trade. What you can see is we have 23 streams of digital work in the company currently. So when people talk about data and digitalization in manufacturing, there's not one topic. We have 23, and I'm sure if I come back in 6 months, maybe we'll be at 30 or 32. So manufacturing is complex, and often when we talk with system providers, technology providers, they try to solve all of our problems in one go, and we tell them, why don't you just take this one and help us on this one, that would be enough.
Thank you, Bruno. So knowing this in head about what you do at GIS, so would you please tell us, as an industrial, how do you see the implementation of smart industry in your processes internally, in your products, and also regarding your clients?
I'm extremely scared about the smart industry. Why? You have to know that in factories, there's one stakeholder who has a massive weight. It's called the insurance. And right now, the insurance, when we talk, because we have a gigantic factory, the number one problem is, do you have water protection everywhere? If you don't have water protection, I don't insure you. If you don't insure, you cannot do business in manufacturing. So right now, we're investing a lot to have absolutely the best sprinklers ever and whatever. Why do I mention them? My feeling is that in 2 to 3 years, the insurance will come to me and say, hey, Bruno, nice to see you again. Tell me, do you have full traceability of every transformation operation that you do in your factory? And are you able to crypto lock every operation so that they are unique and traceability? Because if something happened with one of your machines, I want to know who has done what and can you guarantee me? So the first problem that we have in process in our own factory, but everybody will have the same, is there is an external stakeholder who is about to arrive and put massive pressure on traceability. So GIS will invest a lot in technology to ensure that all of our processes are being digitally followed, documented, crypto-locked, and I hope we'll be finished in the next 4 to 5 years. So it's a 10 years project for us that we started about 5 years ago. That's the point number one. Point number two is you do machine, you send them around the world. So what the connectivity, digitalization, what do you think? My value is that currently you need to invest significant amount of money to provide technology to your clients. But can you price it? It's not so easy. It's not so easy. And this is the big problem. So when people ask me this question, I said the problem is not can you price it, the problem is do you want to stay in the game? And I think as a manufacturer, the problem is not a question of being offensive, the question is being defensive. Do I want to have a machine which can communicate in multiple communication protocol? What do I want to communicate? What's the security? What are the process I want to provide to my client? What are the digital options I want to provide them? Can I price them? Today, no. Tomorrow, maybe. But if I don't have this, the commercial discussion with the client stops. So to answer your question, what I would say is on the manufacturing side, I am urging everybody to work on full traceability. It will come from the insurance. It will not come from your client. And the second is, what do I do about my product? I mean, keep racing on digitalization. Even if you don't know for what, your client, they know. They will not tell you, but if you're not able to have the keys for their own success, one day they will leave you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, after this question being asked from the panelists, do you have questions to address to Bruno, to Patrick, to Charles? Yes, Bartosz.
Sorry that I'm asking so many questions. Usually I'm very curious. So the security...
Can you put the microphone here and speak because I don't hear?
I will do my best. The security truly is one of the key aspects, and I'm super happy to listen you. The data security that can be kept somewhere in the cloud, the quality, the integrity is one of the things, but also how we are going to move the data from the machine to the processes and as well to the cloud. They must be also as well secured. You mentioned that you're digitalizing your production process, but do you have also in mind the security of the data that can be sent from the machine to some external entity?
So in terms of my own process, the factory has been closed from the cloud about 2 years ago. So we don't have any more exchange in the cloud. We're too scared. So we're separating the office from the production floor. So we have about, I would say, about 100 million euros of equipment in the factory, some of them the most advanced machine in the world. If my supplier wants to update them, they have to come. There is no more. We're too scared of opening the factory. So first, our own factory is closed. The factories of my clients are getting closed. So what we start to see, and this is very important for the building of machine, is we need to work more and more in edge computing. So in factories, we start to see slowly industrial computer arriving, centralizing the data. And this data go into another computer, which analyze problems or cybersecurity problem. And if they're able to pass this cybersecurity, I don't know, you call it door, then you can start to get out. So what I would tell you is my challenge today is a bit like the last machine I purchased in mechanics. Mazak, which is doing the machine for drilling steel, they have put edge AI computing inside their own machine now. So they have neural network directly in the machine. What I think we're going to see is we're going to have inside machine neural network arriving. For $1 million machine, that's very easy. It's, for my type of product, which is less than 50,000, it's still a bit expensive. My feeling is this type of advanced computing, the cost will collapse over the next 10 years. And I think I will start to have those data and those calculations done in the machine, and then the client will decide if he wants to import or export. So I think machine will not be connected to the cloud anymore. Industrial machine, I'll be careful. In GS, we also have another problem. When you're in a computer, you have Wi-Fi, you have 4G, 3G, 2G, whatever, but you have 5 or 6 very standard protocols. In industrial communication, you have 2 problems. You have first about 170 industrial communication protocol, Ethercat, Ethernet, Modbus, whatever. And for each protocol, the database behind the protocol is specific to the machine maker. So if I use CAN, and you use CAN, we cannot communicate because your database is not my database. So if I send you a data, it's called A, maybe for you it's called B. So, we don't communicate. So in the manufacturing right now, we need to start to develop what I call horizontal platform. So we start to build one called SAM, Smart Automation Module, where we're able to discuss with every industrial communication protocol and recognize and download database from the other recipient and start to make, with artificial intelligence, the bridge between the database. And this will help a lot machine to communicate to each other. So these are completely new revolution that is about to arrive in manufacturing. So to answer your question, the user will have to decide what he does with the data, but everything will be done internally. And if he wants to communicate through the cloud or through this new technology, our is called SAM, so what we call horizontal communication, he will have also to give the rights to communicate. So we have to provide new technology for data transfer.
Maybe I have just something to add, is that, as you mentioned before, you will have 1 billion of data in the machine. If you will connect this machine with the cloud and share with this data with the cloud will collapse. They cannot manage this kind of data. It is too big. Okay, that's very important to develop the edge computing. Now, the second problem we will have with the connected machine with the cloud is that the cloud, you will not have the sovereignty of data in the cloud because the cloud provider are based in US and you have this kind of a cloud act. Okay, there are no cloud here in right now. cloud like that in Europe. And now, to connect as mentioned, to connect this machine to the and to use this data and to share this data and to develop some business around that, and they are an important migration because the industry are OT market, operation technology market. Okay, there are a lot of standard, there are a lot of development inside, and the cloud is the IT market. Okay, you take off the shelf component. Okay, and that's the idea to maybe to start to move this OT market, the industry, to the IT in order after with the platform, in order after to be connected and to manage the data and generate business. Maybe last point to share is that Tesla or SpaceX, Tesla is the IT car, and the other one are OT car. And the SpaceX, they will right now they completely change the space industry. SpaceX is the IT space, is the new space, and the Viasat or the other one is OT space.
We call about vertical communication and perpendicular communication. Cloud is vertical and horizontal is industrial communication, what we call. Why is it so bad in manufacturing? Why is it so slow? Today, I don't know how many manufacturer phone there is, but maybe let's say 20 maximum. We have thousands of machine makers. Each of them, and I'm one of the largest in Europe, maybe the largest, I do 500,000 machines per year. Most of the machine makers, they do 10,000 machines. Do they care about building a standard for 10,000? They don't care. And by the way, when people ask me, do you want to be part of a standard? I'm like, no. So you see, there is a lot of reluctance because we don't know if we pass in the standard how much we're going to lose. We know we're not going to win a lot, but we are very scared of losing a lot. So the industry will move over. Standardization in manufacturing will take 20 years.
And we'll see this part about standardization and actually the interconnection between different systems within smart industry is one of the challenges that Industry 4.0 will have to face anyway. So that will be an introduction for our afternoon workshop, which will take place here at 2:30. Let's call it a day for the morning, for this roundtable of the morning. Thank you very much for your presence. Thank you.